Chatsworth is a house, a garden and a park all as one. It's just one amazing piece of land art.
There's so much detail, so much interest, people just are wowed by the place.
The landscape is wonderfully sympathetic to sculpture. They have continuously changing exhibitions of contemporary work, so the gardens become an extension of the house.
The world's greatest collectors are not only defined by great wealth. Sotheby's takes you inside Chatsworth House, the ancestral home of the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire. Discover the passion that has driven 16 generations of the Cavendish family to create one of the world's most extraordinary art collections.
We're up here in the Peak District, in the Derwent Valley, an outdoor space that is second to none. The setting is quite extraordinary.
The garden and the collection, I think, are connected in the way they both represent different generations.
You can walk around and you can see Elizabethan Chatsworth, some of the Victorian Chatsworth, and then you also see the last 100 years of the family continuing to develop it. Different generations, different dukes and duchesses adding their mark.
The first Duke made the seahorse fountain and the cascade. The next big change was the fourth Duke in the middle of the 18th century. He was more of a landscape and outdoors person than an indoors collector. The sixth Duke, the Victorian Duke, was everywhere.
You can see that what the sixth Duke was doing was making this connection between indoor and outdoor space.
A lot of what we see today is directly thanks to him. His landscape, I think, was all part of pure pleasure of just beauty.
This is a parkland designed by Capability Brown, and the inner gardens have these extraordinary waterworks and water features, some of which were designed by Joseph Paxton, the great Victorian inventor and scientist.
The gardens are an incredibly important transition from the parkland to the formal grand house. The idea was that it was all one rolling green landscape.
We're not frightened of change, but we always understand the changes we're making, the impact it will have on the history books and on the guidebook of the future. So one of my responsibilities is to make sure that every decision we take, whether it's to take something away or to add something new, is as well informed as possible. It's a case of juggling sometimes. It's a case of stamping your own mark, but respecting what's gone before, which is something that all the generations have always done, and what makes Chatsworth quite unique among houses and gardens in this country.
A year or two ago, the Duke and Duchess asked me to do an exhibition of sculptures within the gardens, and I thought, is my work just going to disappear in the vastness of the vistas?
We love his work and we wanted to have something to remember that exhibition by. We acquired the upside-down umbrella and the pink shoe. So Amanda and I looked for places to put them.
And we struggled and struggled, and they were very difficult to place.
In a 100-acre garden and a wider parkland, you kind of think we'd have loads of space, but actually finding the right position is always a challenge. Sometimes we actually make life-size mock-ups, so we can move them around, put them in a position.
And think, no, that's not quite right, and then suddenly you think, that's the right place.
Sculpture is usually illusionistic in a three-dimensional sense. It's fully rounded and you walk around it, whereas my sculptures are flat. Their illusionism is two-dimensional.
This sculpture is in fact a drawing. It's just a line in the air.
They're transparent. And so one of the most important considerations for me was, what is the view through the sculpture? The sculpture itself becomes a frame for the landscape.
Every year we have a temporary exhibition, 25 pieces of wonderful sculpture, land in the garden. From our own personal point of view, it's introduced us to a number of artists who we're very fond of. It's made a big difference to Chatsworth. It definitely opened us up to a new audience, and it helped differentiate us from other similar historic houses because it was more edgy, a bit more exciting.
The landscape is wonderfully sympathetic to sculpture. When you come either into the gardens with the sculptures that are in the gardens or here in the house, the things that are old are mixed with the things that are new. It's not just a gesture towards the contemporary. There's a real integration, a real desire to see these things together and to put them into a kind of equal status.